Hello. As the one-year mark approaches since the October 7th attacks, we're talking with a local leader in the Palestinian community about loss in his own family. Also, this year marks the 9th year for She Matters Equity Summit and Award Ceremony. We'll talk to the leader of Gwen Girls about this year's event. Plus, Greenwood Weekend is back. We'll get all the details on the event designed to help Black entrepreneurs grow their businesses. So pull up a chair and meet us at the corner. Intersection starts right now. Hello, I'm Lisa Smith, the Director of Community Impact at KDKA Plus and the host of Intersections. It's been nearly 1 year since the Hamas attack in Israel, and the death toll continues to rise. Over 1,200 dead in Israel, and some reports list more than 40,000 Palestinian deaths in the last year. But for many, those numbers represent family and loved ones. Kareem Al-Sharafa is a Pittsburgh business executive and a local Palestinian community leader, and he's joining us today. Thanks so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Take us back to October 7th of 2023 when the attack happened. What kind of went through your mind at that time in terms of the ramifications that could bring?
Well, being a Gazan Palestinian myself, that day was extremely difficult for all of us. Being Palestinian, we experienced multiple hardships throughout our life, being the fact that my parents were born during the 1948 occupation of Gaza, of Palestine. And all throughout our history, we've dealt with wars against Palestinians. And with that, we knew the ramifications. It's probably additional losses of life, innocent lives. And we were struck by it at that day.
Yeah, so you knew that this could potentially take some time.
We knew that there would be a disproportionate response because people think that this started on October 7th, and the reality is it's been going on since 1948. And the Palestinians have been living under occupation in their own land for a very long time. As a Palestinian, you know, this is something that we lived through. And for this reason, we try to educate folks that it didn't all start on October 7th.
Mm-hmm. You have lost several family members, however, since the attack on the 7th. How many family members have you lost?
We have close family members and extended family members. The Al-Sharafa family is a large family in Gaza. And we lost 23 extended family members and 6 close family members.
Mm-hmm. How are the family that's still there coping? Because there's a lot of destruction, difficulty, you know, with food and other necessities. How are they coping?
I was messaging with a cousin of mine out there. And his particular situation, he's responsible for his wife, his mother-in-law, and his 2 children. His daughter, who's 2 years old, is suffering from malnutrition. There's lack of food, lack of water, no medication and vitamins to give her. And he's in dire need of support, and getting even support to them is nearly impossible at times. So those kind of stories really make it difficult for me to share, but it's necessary that we express the fact that this is happening to thousands and hundreds of thousands of people there.
Mm-hmm. And you were saying that you were texting, but we had talked earlier and you said communication is difficult.
Communication is very difficult. Cell phone towers have been struck and purposely not being supported and brought back up. It's it's very spotty. So we do have some communication, but it just depends on when they can get it.
Mm-hmm. What has the local community been able to do in terms of helping people who are impacted? Even like just from here in Pittsburgh, how have people been able to offer some assistance?
There's plenty of organizations here that have been absolutely wonderful. I can't name them all, but I can tell you our neighbors have been incredible in supporting us, and our community has been very, very supportive. The problem is not just about the support. When we hold fundraisers, people come out and fundraise, but getting the funds there are made extremely difficult by Israel and the situation there. And we struggle to support them at times. So I would say the situation is a very precarious situation.
Mm-hmm. We showed some of the images from some of the demonstrations at Pitt. Has that been effective in terms of raising awareness?
We believe so. I think the students, in the history of American history, during the Vietnam War, the students were the first to kind of jump up and protest and bring awareness to what's happening there. During the South African apartheid, the students were the first to kind of wake up our conscience and to really shake us to say, is this really what we want to support? And ultimately, they were on the right side of history when we look at that. And we're very thankful to the students today for the work that they're doing at University of Pittsburgh and Carnegie Mellon University. They're really bringing awareness to how dire the situation is for innocent lives in Palestine.
Yeah, we have a little less than a minute left, but tell us a little bit about the community vigil that's coming up on the 7th.
We're holding an interfaith community vigil on October 7th to commemorate the 1-year anniversary, the start of this war, to really support all those that are struggling. There's been loss of lives, innocent loss of lives from both sides. And we want to make sure that everybody understands that we're not here just to call for one side's support. We're here to say this must end. We can no longer support war. And we want to save innocent lives as quickly as possible for every day that goes on from today. And it's incredible that we're now celebrating a terrible anniversary of 1 year of continuous killing. It's estimated 40,000 to 190,000, we don't know the actual numbers, have been killed, murdered brutally since the start. And we can't let that go on anymore. So for the vigil, we're going to hold a moment of silence. We're going to have leaders from Muslim leaders, Christian leaders, Jewish leaders, all stand together to pray for all those that are suffering. And we hope that our community members are able to make it out. It'll be at the Vietnam Memorial Pavilion in Shenley Park, and it's going to be on October 7th at 5:30 p.m.
All right. Well, Kareem, we really appreciate you coming and sharing this information, and we're going to stay in touch.
Thank you, Lisa. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Well, coming up, cultivating a community where Black girls thrive. Details on this year's She Matters Week when we come back. Well, this year marks the 9th year Gwen Girls and the Black Girls Equity Alliance will host She Matters. It's an event all about addressing the inequities impacting Black girls. This year, it's a week-long experience with everything from morning walks to wellness sessions and some real conversations about how young Black girls are seen. Joining us to share more are Dr. Kathy Elliott. She is the CEO of Gwen Girls, along with Dr. Daniela Brissett. She is an associate professor specializing specializing in adolescent medicine at UPMC Children's Hospital. And she is also the keynote speaker for the summit. Welcome, ladies, to Intersections.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes. So, Dr. Kathy, you know, it's been 9 years, but just kind of give us a little bit of how She Matters started and where you think we are right now.
So She Matters and just the Black Girls Equity Alliance was started back in 2016 following a report that was released in Allegheny County that highlighted the inequities that Black girls face here. Around that time, there were, many of us nonprofit leaders as well as universities and foundations that wanted to take a closer look at what was happening with girls in the region. And surprisingly, but not so surprisingly, we found that there was a high number of overrepresentation in the various systems like the child welfare and the juvenile justice system, in education with the suspensions and just push out, and then in healthcare and health and wellness, just the disparities that existed there. And so from that, a group of us started to convene, and it's just a blessing that 9 years later we still have the same folks volunteering their time and just coming and lending their expertise to help us to set policies and practices and have a greater understanding of how do we change the trajectory for not only just Black girls, but all girls and youth in our region.
Yeah. So what's going to happen during that week? And I know that you were telling me that the girls actually are part of this planning process.
Yeah, so through the Black Girls Equity Alliance, we have the Black Girls Leadership and Alliance group that started, and we want, again, for that inclusive voice of our young people. As we said, we can't do anything about them without them. We shouldn't be, but historically, systems and adults, that's what has happened. And so one of the things they wanted to focus on was just the trauma that they individually and personally have experienced, but they know that their peers have been dealing with, and looking at how can we do better as a community to address safety. At the same time, we also wanted to address the caregivers and the adults that are, the ones that are providing the supports and services, not getting burnt out and doing some self-care. So that's where the walks and the different webinars that we'll be having from Monday through Thursday, and then coming in person on Friday for the full day summit.
Yeah, and then Dr. Brissett, you're going to be the keynote speaker. How do you want to address, or what do you want to address with these young ladies, especially as it comes to this adultification matter?
I'm so glad you asked that question, particularly around adultification. And I think to best answer that, we have to first define childhood. Childhood is a time of learning, of growing and developing from mistakes. And yet, many children are not allowed that privilege or that opportunity, and particularly Black girls, for many various forces, whether that's racism or sexism. And what we want for all youth is to thrive. And so my hope in talking on Friday is to do two things. One, with all the incredible adults there, to be like, you are champions of childhood. And what that looks like is listening and placing age-appropriate responsibilities. No longer having criminalization or even sexualization, which we've heard time and time again, Black girls deal with on their streets, in their communities, in their schools. For the youth that are there, I just want them to be celebrated, to be known that they are beautiful. You are more than your trauma. You are there, and there should be a spotlight when you're experiencing both joy and when you're thriving. And I think that's critically important.
Yeah. And then Dr. Elliott, there's also this piece with the HERE Foundation.
Yes.
Tell us about that part.
So as we were planning our summit, we learned that there was, we were both having the same dates and because we are partners, and that's truly the essence of what Black Girls Equity Alliance has been, is that we're a partnership. And so instead of us being in person for this summit, our own summit on Thursday, we have encouraged and people have signed up to join the HERE Foundation in their conference on the Thursday, and that's going to be at Duquesne University.
Yeah, and then there's an awards piece
Yes.
to it as well.
Absolutely.
We're showing some of that right now.
Yes.
Tell us about the awards.
So this is just a way for us to promote and celebrate and recognize the folks that have really looked at how we can change the trajectory of our young people. And so we're just so excited to, be able to celebrate individuals as well as organizations that have been partners and that, again, have led the way of finding ways to celebrate our young people and our families. And as we previously talked about, not just focusing on the traumas, but the joys and the, all the things that we know that our young people and families are able to thrive from.
Yeah. And then the tickets are available online at bgeapgh.org.
Correct.
Correct. And this event is again going to be starting the week of October 10th.
So, yes.
Make sure we'll double check.
Yeah,
I think it's the 7th.
it starts the 7th.
Yes.
So as we talked about the webinars and the morning walks and the different activities throughout the week, but the actual summit is on the 10th and 11th.
Got it. All right. Thank
Yes.
you both so much. We appreciate it.
So much.
Thank you for having us.
All right. All right. Well, coming up, we will have much more in a moment. Well, knowledge is key to running a successful business, and there's a week full of business knowledge happening in Pittsburgh this month. It's happening at the 6th annual Greenwood Weekend Business Conference at the Greenwood Building in downtown Pittsburgh. And here to tell us all about it are Camille Bailey, the Greenwood Plan founder and executive director, along with Greenwood Plan Director of Operations, Jasmine Kinney. Thanks for being here, ladies.
Thank you.
So I was just saying, which came first, Greenwood Plan or Greenwood Week?
Yeah, Greenwood Week actually came first. It was so successful and people had so much of a demand for what we brought that we decided to expand it into pretty much a nonprofit that continued to facilitate the knowledge, but also expand it beyond that.
Yeah. So you've been doing this now for several years.
Yes.
What are you seeing? Are you seeing any trends for Black business owners in terms of, what's working for them, what's maybe not working for them?
Yeah, I think the biggest trend that we're seeing is an increase in the conversation. I think people are more open to exploring business as an option. I also think people are more open to exploring that maybe business is not for them, which is not something that we've typically been granted the privilege to do, right? This concept of failing forward, where you can try something and realize that maybe it's not the best avenue for you and it does not impact your personal finances or your reputation, right? It's just a more open and inviting atmosphere to explore business.
Yeah. So Jasmine, the theme this year is scaling. Sometimes that means scaling up, maybe sometimes scaling back.
Yeah.
So why that theme and how are people embracing that?
So we chose that theme for this year's conference to reflect the scaling that we've seen in our own business. So like we just mentioned, it started with a conference in 2018, scaled up to a nonprofit in 2021, and then in 2023 with the acquisition of our building. So to reflect all the scaling up that we have done as a nonprofit, as a business. We also want to encourage participants of Greenwood Week to try to do the same, or like you said, maybe scale down, maybe from participating in some of the classes and workshops, a business that participates may pivot to scale down.
So you mentioned the workshops and classes. There's a lot. You guys have a lot of things on your agenda. So financial planning for business, what is that one about?
Financial planning for business will encompass things like succession planning. It'll also encompass like business planning, resources for funding, and as well as insurance. Yeah.
And then, Camille, becoming an employer, because sometimes you're just doing it by yourself and then it's like, I need some help. So how do people kind of move into that, and what is that conversation about?
Right, that is something that we also experienced firsthand, going from being founders of an organization to getting to the point where we need the capacity to really grow the programming that we're doing and starting to hire our first set of employees. Realizing there's a lot of hurdles that come with that, but you need to know how to provide insurance, like health insurance and benefits for your staff. how to put that in your budget, right? How to budget properly to add staff on, how to make sure that you as a founder or maybe the sole employee of an organization are not experiencing burnout, and you have people who can help carry the load. Those are all the things that we want to address when we're talking to people about whether or not they're ready for their first employee or to hire a team.
Yeah. The one that I thought was really interesting was starting a brick and mortar business, because during the pandemic, everybody was kind of like online, and now it's kind of almost taken over, the online. So Jasmine, a brick and mortar, why is that an important topic right now?
That's such an important topic because with our building, each business there is a brick and mortar. And for us personally, that encourages the ecosystem that we have in our building and how important it is to have community in business. A lot of people feel like they have to leave Pittsburgh to start their business, and not only because it's maybe going to a bigger city, but because they can be in community with other, specifically Black businesses or other small businesses. But we're trying to encourage and also show that it's possible to still have a brick and mortar business post-pandemic, as well as maybe there is a current brick and mortar business that's operating and again wants to pivot in the other direction. So it really is a flexible space to kind of, like Camille said, fail forward in some ways and figure out what works best.
Yeah. You also have a one called Six Figures, is it? But people have to go to find out about that one.
Right.
Because I'm sure that's you're gonna need some extra cheers for that
Yes.
one. So let's talk a little bit about when this is happening. This is the 10th through the 13th at the Greenwood building. Tell me a little bit more where people can find tickets.
People can find tickets at greenwoodplan.com. As soon as you go to the site, there will be Greenwood Week 2024. You can click there and purchase tickets.
All right, we're showing some of the speakers. I know, Camille, you're going to be speaking on one of the panels, and generally, do you guys sell this out generally? I mean,
Yeah, I remember the first year that we did it in 2019, we had to pull up chairs. We had a room that seated 50. And we found that we definitely had to pull in more room, especially because the conference is for more than just your traditional entrepreneur. We invite families to come together to learn about this information, so it does tend to bring out more people than just the individual who's running the business, but everybody who was related to them and related to that business as well. So the room is a very communal room. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a valuable project for people to go and take part in. We thank you both for coming and sharing it with us.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll have my last word when we come back. Turkey. That's right, the 43rd annual KDKA TV Turkey Fund is officially underway. And once again, we're asking for your help to make sure our neighbors in need have a warm meal this Thanksgiving. There are lots of ways you can give. You can go to any PNC bank, you can text, give online, or by mail. And from all of us at KDKA, thank you. And thanks for watching Intersections. We'll see you next time.